Hey, what's up? And welcome back to the Step It Up Entrepreneur Podcast. Thomas Keenan, your host, coming at you today from the illustrious home office here in Dallas, Texas. And today I've got Mr. Kevin Snow with us. Man, I appreciate you coming in here. I did your podcast with you a couple of weeks ago. Man, it was a couple months ago at this point.
Yep.
And we dove in pretty deep, covered some good topics. And I think this is one of the coolest things that I get to experience, and you do too, with podcasting is like, oh, cool. Let's just do a swap. Let's reciprocate here. Have you on mine? You come on your, like the whole 9 yards there, and you get to go out and explore and get your message out to other audiences, as well as have good, valuable conversation with other humans.
Yeah, that's one of the coolest things that I found about the podcasting is you get to have these really badasses on your show, and you just get to have a really cool conversation. There's no expectation that you're going to be selling or getting sold to or anything like that. It's really just like, well, let's see what we can figure out, what we can do. And more times than not, after we get done with the call, there's usually then that conversation like, I want to do more. How do we get deeper into each other's world? What do we do? You know, we chat on social media, and you invite me to all your stuff now. So it's really cool. And that is one of the main reasons we tell people you need to start a podcast is because it is a great way to get into conversations that'll actually help you grow your business.
Yeah. Yeah. My opinion is this is the one area where most people feel pretty safe, right? So a lot of coaches will be like, hey, you can't ask me questions unless you're paying me money. Right. However,
that's just dumb.
Yeah, I get it. I get both sides of the equation. Right. But if you are a podcast host, you invite that person to come onto your podcast, you go after them. And there's some sales techniques that are involved to getting people onto your show. You get them on your show. And now it's like, oh, I just opened up this dude's brain, and I'm allowed to go in there and ask questions that normally would be behind the paid curtain.
Yep. Well, and the other cool thing is, and I've had this conversation with people that I've been working with, is that if you create your top 10 list of prospects of people you really want to do business with and you want to be a vendor for and work with, bring them on your podcast.
Yeah.
Because now you get to dive in, have this really cool conversation about the topic without being salesy and pitching. And, afterwards, if you do the conversation right, hopefully they're going to then say, this is really cool. I would actually love to talk to you more about how you can help us with this. And then you get to have that sales conversation and you have permission. So there's no more feeling like you're hard closing. You're having to go through all that sales mechanisms to get the deal. They've said, please come sell me your stuff because we had a cool conversation.
Yeah, but it's a reciprocal interaction as well. So not only do you have that conversation with them, you may get to pitch your shit to them, but at the same point in time, if you're doing it properly, you're going to produce a show and you're going to produce assets that you then hand over to that person and say, hey, look, I just gave you some free fucking marketing. Here it is. Go do what you want with it.
And most business owners aren't on podcasts. They don't do guest appearances. Getting invited to be on a podcast is going to be a big ego thing for a lot of business owners, just because, you're on probably multiple shows a week other than yours. Donnie and I are both doing that for our companies as well. I met with a business owner last week who was just a complete badass. I'm like, you got to be on growth mode with us. And she's like, I've never been on a podcast before. I'm like, what? You've never been on a podcast? She's like, I listened to them. I'm like, oh my God, we're going to fix this. So here's all the stuff you need to go buy. So that's a big thing. If you call this CEO and say, hey, I would love to have you on my podcast to talk about X, most of them are going to say, after they get over the shock of being asked, they're going to be like, yeah, let's do this. That'd be so cool. And now you get to jump into that conversation with someone who's excited to have it with you.
Yeah. I'll give you two real life versions of it. I've got the CEO of WiseHire coming on for an interview, which is awesome. It's actually a hiring platform that we use and recommend to our clients. So to kind of get inside that dude's head and understand how that company started and why they're doing what they're doing is really awesome. So that's a vendor who I use, who we have a really good relationship with that company. Cool. I get to give some free promo to them and helps us all out. The other flip side of it is right after this call with you, I'm actually doing a podcast with one of my coaching clients who's killing it right now.
Nice.
So cool. Let me bring you on. Let's hear a little bit about your story. Give me some of your perspective on what it was like working with me. Right. So it's not coming
Yep.
out of my mouth, but I'm also creating a podcast episode for my marketing and my message, but it also is going to help benefit him. And it breaks the ice. He's speaking to someone he's already familiar with for his first podcast.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the key. You need to have that really good chemistry with the person you're bringing on. So it's, having had conversations in the past where you know that they're going to be able to sound smart, get the right ideas out, and they're going to be engaging, and people are like, "Oh, I want to hear more about this guy or this gal." Is really key. You can't bring on, and we've had a couple guests we brought on. They were like, "Oh God, this is the most boring person ever." Do you have other tones that you use when you speak? And we're like, "Oh, we can't even air this." So it has to be the right person. You can't do this with just anyone in your prospect list. They actually got to be able to hold their weight.
Yeah. So listen, let's talk about that for a minute here. Right. I think you bring up a valid point. Because if you podcast long enough, you're going to have a couple of those that come through and you're going to just be like, oh, my Lord. So what is it that you guys do? Because your podcast, your co-host is Donnie.
Yep.
Right. What are you guys doing to vet your guests before you allow them to come on air with you?
So when we have someone who applies out of the blue that we haven't personally invited to be on the show, they have to submit episodes that they've been on or some sort of video of where they've been speaking, or a video of them being on a podcast, because we want to actually hear how they speak and how they sound on radio, and that's really key for us, because if they are going to be, Donnie has enough to do with one introvert on the show, and that's me. So having another introvert that is not going to give good answers and we're going to have to drag information out of is just going to be absolutely painful for both of us. So for us, it's really key that we actually get to hear them being on a show. And this is why we tell a lot of people who are trying to get into podcasting just to go get on any show. If it sounds interesting and it sounds like it might fit your market, get on the show. And don't care about how many listeners they have, because now you have two things. You have a platform to practice your messaging and to figure out what actually people jump into is like, oh my God, tell me more about that. But then you also have your sound clips and you have episodes you can show people like, look, I've done this before. I'm actually good. You can let me on. I won't destroy your show. So just getting on shows is key. And that's what we look for. One, they need to have a really cool story or something that we know our audience is looking for and wants to learn.
Yeah.
They need to be able to teach, because we don't do the normal, hey, tell me your story. How'd you get into this? We don't care about any of that. We want to come on and jump right into the conversation about, hey, how do you fix this thing in your business? And then they need to be a really good conversationalist. So those are the things that we really look for. And listening to previous episodes for them is the number one way we figure that out.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You guys, I'm sure, get hit with a lot of the podcast agency pitches as well.
Yep.
So what's the process? Are you guys just deleting those and saying, fuck those? Or are you kind of just saying, hey, if you're interested, fill this link out for your client?
It depends. Some of them we read, like, yeah, did they even listen to our show? We got one the other day that was like a physician, and we're like, what? How does this even apply to our clients and our listeners? So that one was like, yeah, hard no. We just deleted it. But some of them are like, oh, this actually sounds kind of interesting. Like we had a CEO or COO of JotForm. Their agency reached out to us. I'm like, this sounds kind of fun. We don't know them. So we went through the normal process with them. Say, yeah, we'd love to explore this. Here's the link. Fill this out. Give us some information, and then we can get them scheduled. So yeah, we make them go through the process. We don't just take the word of the booking agency, because they're getting paid to make them sound awesome. So we want that extra step of proof. It's like, fill out the form, let us listen to some episodes, and then we're good to go.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah, my team has been in the background doing some work and revamping what that system looks like, because for the longest time, I just pulled from my ecosystem. It was like, come on, get on my show. Here's a link. Just book my calendar. And
or you get on another show. You're like, all right, you're a really cool host. Do you want to come on my show? And you do the reciprocation thing. We're still in that, because this is only our first season of actually having guests. Previous to that, it was just me and Donnie being me and Donnie and going back and forth with the introvert extrovert type thing and tormenting each other, which was fun. But, you know, we wanted to take it to that next level. So now we have the guest thing. So for us, the process was really key because we're so busy. We needed to have a way to make sure that we had a lineup of people coming on, that we had our recording sessions filled, but then we weren't forgetting about people.
Yeah.
So we did a lot of stuff in our automation tool for when people fill out the application, for notifications, tasks getting assigned for us to review and do things, and really building it out so that we had a system that was keeping us accountable, as opposed to like, oh crap, we need to get someone on a show. Who do we know that we can ask to come on last minute so we have episodes in the can? And that's been really key for us for a lot of stuff, not just the podcast, but just in general. As we grew as Success Champions, we needed to have that automation piece keeping us honest with our processes.
Sure. Yeah, no, that's key. I see a lot of people who just come in and wing it from start to finish. And like, yeah, you can do that for a while, but after, especially as you get busier, you have a company, an existing business, or maybe you're just starting out and you've now trying to grow this thing and it's taking more of your bandwidth. Like, you got to have processes in place. And I mean, that lesson just applies to business overall.
Yeah.
There comes a point in time where you cannot remember to do it all.
I have a list, and I'm like, okay, we need to hire people who can do these things because I don't have time to do them anymore. And, you know, that's a normal piece of our weekly conversation. I was like, all right, what do we need to outsource? Yeah. What are we now getting bogged down with that we don't want to do anymore? So last week, the decision was, we need someone who can do graphic design and do all our Canva stuff for us, because neither of us should be sitting in Canva designing covers for workshops and stuff for both of our summits that are coming up. Because it's just too much time out of our day. So we're like, yep, got to do that. And we talk about this regularly. And it's the key, I think, for any business to have those conversations and figure out, all right, so what's wasting my time? Yeah. You know, it's an important task that has to be getting done, but should I be the one doing it?
Yeah, bingo.
And that is so important to figure out, because those are the things that are keeping you from actually growing.
Yeah. And so many people fight it because they're so comfortable in doing it.
Yeah, me. Hi, I'm a doer. You know, integrator, introvert, love my systems and processes, and I hate giving up the creation piece. When I design a process that we're going to automate, I hate bringing someone else in to do it because I have it stuck in my head that they're not going to be able to do it as well as me, that I am the one that has to do it so it's done right. Yeah. So that has been one of my biggest learning pieces over the last 6 months. Is like, all right, got to give up control. It's going to be okay if you don't do it. And letting this, we now have Roderick working on our team, who's awesome, who's starting to do stuff and learning all the systems that I just keep pushing more stuff to. He's like, yeah, give me more. I'm like, sweet. Why didn't I find you at like 3 years ago? This would be, that would have been freaking awesome. Yeah. But it is a big step for a lot of us to do that.
You know, it's funny. Not funny. It's just, we're very similar right now in the paths that we're on. So, you know, I've always been the operations guy, the integrator myself, and I'm very comfortable there. Yeah. Right. We operate differently. We think differently, and I'm totally fine with us being weirdos. Right. So I'm at my last event here in Dallas. I get done with the event, and a couple days later, I'm like, holy shit! Like I'm out of bandwidth. Like I can't take on more clients and simultaneously continue building out the back end structure of my company.
Yep.
Okay. I knew I was going to get here eventually. It happened sooner than I thought. So what do I do? And started thinking, and I'm like, holy shit. The perfect person is already in my ecosystem, and I've just been blind to it because I haven't been looking for it. Long story short, one of my clients is a better integrator than me.
Oh, nice.
We took the Rocket Fuel Visionary Integrator Assessment. Her scores came back dumb high, where mine were like, they're okay. All right. And long story short, we wound up having a conversation. I brought her onto the team and assigned a bunch of tasks like, hey, this is where we're at. Let me show you everything, the whole system that's been built so far and the structure and how it works. Assigned a massive checklist of things, of projects that needed to get done over, let's say, the first 90 days of her coming onto the team. came onto the team, knocked all of them out of the park because all of our focus is there, not on everything like me.
Yep.
And also, once she got in there, she was able to see it from a third party perspective and say, hey, dummy, we have a gap over here that we need to go fill. Right. And that's just the beauty of bringing on high quality team members, or even if you're bringing on someone as a consultant or a coach to look inside your organization. Like, that's the beauty of it. You get that fresh set of third party eyeballs on your shit. And sometimes, and one of the things I like about her too is she has no problem calling me on my shit. And we all need that.
Yeah, that is super important. You can't have someone on your team that's just going to say yes all the time. And that was one of the big reasons Donnie and I got along so well right away, was I wasn't afraid to tell him that he was dumb. So
that's got me fired before.
I know, but because we were at the beginning, we were in this just a state of constant ideation, and he and I would both call each other as up. Hey, I had an idea. We need to do this. And we had to get really comfortable really quick, being able to tell each other, is like, no, that's a dumb idea because it's going to impact this. We can't do that now. And we both became really comfortable doing that really quickly. And it's been really a positive part of our friendship and our business relationship, to be able to have that person that you can have the disagreement with, but afterwards it's still like, all right, you ready to go grab a beer? Yep, let's go grab a beer. And that is super key for the people you're going to have on your team. Our big focus is, and we decided this a few months ago, is that, so Donnie's always been the visionary. I've been playing the role of integrator, but we're now trying to really force me into that second visionary role within the organization, so that we're both able, because I can go sell, I can do all that type of stuff, and really being able to, now we have two of us driving different areas of the business forward, doing the visionary thing. So we're really focused on, all right, so how do we find a new integrator? Just like you, how do we find that person who can be Kevin and, take care of all that stuff and make sure everything's working, almost the chief of staff type position that's going to keep all the things rolling, so I don't have to touch all the stuff anymore. And that's really hard, because now that's a next step up from just, hey, finding someone who can do the tasks. Now you're trying to find someone who can actually run the tasks.
Yeah. It's a big step too, and I'm glad you guys are there. You want some perspective?
Always.
Okay. Number one, I think it's probably, yes, you're gonna co-visionary with him. I would see this person being more so a reportee to you than him, because you can filter his shit and then pass it along.
Yep.
Right, because you've got that good relationship with Donnie already, in my opinion, and the interactions I've had with both of you. So rocketfueluniversity.com, visionary integrator assessment, you versus the person you're looking to bring on. And I don't know what you guys have as far as a hiring process or anything, but definitely rip a disc or something similar to it. And you're looking for the inverse of you. Because if you actually go and get the person who matches your assessment, which is like the logical thing to do,
yep,
you're going to bang heads the whole fucking time, and you're going to get nowhere.
So I am on disc. The different tests I've done, I am that really ultra high C. So I can't be any more down in the corner than possible. So that's me. But the funny thing is, because of all my military training and leadership training there, I can be a high D really easily.
Yeah.
So, especially if I'm under stress, then I go into that high D mode. So yeah, but normally I'm the high C.
Yeah.
And Donnie is normally a high D, little I type person.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's funny. I'm a high I and a lower D, like I'm a midline or a little bit below in the D, and high in the I. And my integrator, this is not normal for an integrator. She's a super high D. She's a 99 in D.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and it's funny. She spent 10 years in the Marine Corps.
Oh, well, because I did the Clifton Strengths Finder back when I was still doing sales and kind of just getting into having my own business, and I came out with the five characteristics.
Yeah.
I enlisted, went through, and I enlisted when I was 34, so I was a late bloomer into the military. I enlisted, and then I went through all the military leadership training, officer candidate school, beginning officer leadership course, advanced course, all that captain's career course, all that different stuff, and then I did the test again. And we had a consultant with the organization I was with actually looking at all of our stuff. And she said, if you have a previous test, give it here and I'll look at it. I'll compare. And I'm like, perfect, cool. Here it is. And she was like, have you had some like serious life changes in the past couple of years? Because normally you'll like lose one, get a new one. The other ones will just kind of rearrange. Like you have 3 new ones and your top one isn't even on the list anymore. And you have all these that came on. She's like, did something happen? I'm like, well, I got commissioned in the Army and went to a bunch of schools, and they're like, oh yeah, that would be it. So it was interesting.
That's pretty cool. So speaking of the Army, what'd you do there?
So I'm still in. So I'm an operations officer. I'm in for a bit yet. I'm an operations officer with a brigade headquarters. So I help with all the operational planning for missions and deployments and whatever type of exercise or thing we have going up. So we just sent a whole group off to France for a NATO training mission. So yeah, we're getting to do some cool stuff. But yep, I'm a plans guy.
Yeah, so that makes a lot of sense with you doing the integrator kind of stuff inside the business.
Yep. Yeah, and it's interesting because there's a ton of stuff that I've learned from the military that I'm like, oh, this makes perfect sense in business. And I've been able to pull over. We do one of the things we do within Success Champions, and now we teach our coaching clients is lines of effort. And that was a military thing that I learned on the deployments into Iraq and Afghanistan, where you have your division headquarters and your theater headquarters that are getting hit with everyone wanting resources. Ooh, can you give us money for this project? Can you give us this and give us that? So they created this concept called lines of effort, where they had 3 main goals that they were trying to accomplish in theater. And for Iraq, it was transition of governance, strategic services, so like water, air, and all that stuff. And I can't remember the third one. But then you set up all these criteria of, how to look at requests against that line of effort. And then every request that comes in has to accomplish that line of effort somehow. And it was a great tool for the commanders to be able to say, this is really a really cool project and we'd love to do it, but it doesn't fit our end state. It doesn't help us to get to one of these areas, so we can't do it. And so we've integrated that with our business, just because both of us would come up with ideas like, oh, that's awesome. And then we do the squirrel thing. We jump in and put a ton of effort into this thing and completely take our focus off of what we needed to be doing. So we've integrated that into it. Now we basically have this map for the year of all of our big things that we're doing. And when someone brings us a really cool idea, we're like, oh, that's awesome. Does it fit here? Where does it fit? And where can we actually plug it in that we don't have a ton of stuff going on?
Yeah.
And it's saved us from a ton of chaos. And it's been a great tool, especially for Donnie, because he is ADHD. So he's like, ooh, let's do this. New focus. We're going to go here now. And it's helped him stay on track, and it's helped me be able to actually help him stay on track more because we have this big map now.
Yeah.
And it's things like that, how to plan and how to be okay with an 80% plan now as opposed to it being perfect. And things like that is, really what I've gotten from the military as far as, how to run a business better.
Yeah, that's awesome. I can see a lot of overlap there for sure. And it's funny you mentioned that because it's a very similar concept that I not always, but over the past couple of years, I've taught my clients. It's just worded differently.
Yep.
Right. It's like, hey, let's go set your end of year target. Like, what are you trying to do in this year? And then every 90 days when we do our quarterly planning, we're going to ensure that the 3 to 5 key initiatives or tasks that we set forth they have to be in alignment with that big goal. And if they're not, it's nothing more than a distraction.
Exactly. Yeah. And we look at our line of effort chart pretty much every week. And last week we actually took a bunch of stuff off because they're like, we've decided that's not a focus anymore.
Mhm.
So these tasks are gone. Those criteria are out of the way. And our end state objectives that we wanted to see for results, those are gone now too. So, and it's a really good tool to make sure that you are staying focused and really achieving what you want and not wasting a ton of energy, because it's so easy for a business owner to, because we're getting bombarded all the time with offers. Hey, you need to do this and let's do this. And, this would be awesome for Success Champions or Time on Target, my business. Not having that, we normally would have just said, oh, that actually looks cool. Should we try it? Yeah, let's try it. Let's see what happens. And then we'd spend a lot of time and effort. Now we have to say, well, is this actually going to do something that we wanted to do?
Yeah.
And, and it slows us down a bit, which is okay. Because now we get to think and make sure that we're applying resources correctly. Because we can't just say, oh, let's spend money on this, let's spend money on that. You can't run a business and grow if you're just randomly spending money everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, I like it. What kind of system or tool are you guys using to keep track of all this stuff?
So the LOE is literally, it's a spreadsheet.
Mm-hmm.
It is a spreadsheet, and then we even do our metrics on a Google sheet, and we do it purposely that way because it forces us to actually go out and get the metrics. We've had multiple people come in and say, hey, we can automate that. We can build this really cool dashboard that'll pull in from everywhere and get you all the same stuff. Like, awesome, but now I don't know what the numbers mean. They're just numbers. So we did that purposely, and we each have certain ones that we have to put into the spreadsheet, so that we have to go look and figure out, all right, so why is our attrition up this week? Oh, well, here's what happened. And now we can have that conversation. Why is this trending this way? Well, here's what's been going on. So we do spreadsheets for those two, but then like our tasks and management of what needs to get done all gets done in Asana. We have a project management tool that we keep everything in. Donnie is even to the point now where he's saying that it's a good thing. He was not, when I started working with him, he was not a CRM guy and he was not a project management tool. I'm like, we need to keep track of stuff because we're both forgetting crap. So we started using Asana, and now that is his, he has that open on one thing and he has Entreport open on another tab, and that is our tools. That's how we manage things.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it, man. I'm just curious because I like to hear what other people are using tool wise and how they're using those tools. And I don't use Asana, right? I use ClickUp, but it doesn't mean that Asana is bad. I think, and that's one of the beauties of software tools that are out there. There's so many variations and so many different options to choose from. And I recommend people all the time, like, go find one that works best with the way that your brain works.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny now because with, I can learn systems pretty quickly. So if someone says, yeah, we're going to get you access to our Notion board, I'm like, all right, cool. Monday, whatever, I'll figure it out and I'll integrate it into my process. Donnie's brain doesn't work that way. So now when we have vendors come in, I've gotten to the points like, they're like, yeah, and we'll get you access to Notion. I'm like, nope, we will be using Asana. And I will be giving you guys a license and into our instance because if you want Donnie to be doing things on it, we need to be in our system because we're not going to take time teaching him a new system. And they're like, "What? Really?" I'm like, "Yes." Like, does our CEO need to be in the system? No, he actually doesn't really need to do anything. Like, all right, cool, then we can use your system.
Yeah.
So, but it's a control thing for me to make sure we're maximizing his time.
Yeah.
And that's, part of my job as a CEO is not to waste his time. So, and trying to teach him how to use a new system. I got him using Asana and I have him using Entreport. And now we're using Monday for some lead tracking for reach outs that we're doing. That's good. I'm quite happy with that. I think I'm a champion. So we're going to stick with that. But as long as, and I have to measure that when we're working with a vendor who says, hey, we want you to use this system. It's like, all right, so if we make you do this in our system, so as a CEO, Donnie needs access and it's just easier, is that going to screw up the process you're taking us through? So you have to weigh that. But 9 out of 10 times, they're usually like, oh yeah, if we need Donnie to do stuff, like, all right, well, they need to do it in Asana, and they'll understand. So, but it's key, as integrators, we have to protect the time for our visionary, because they will get distracted and they will do deep dives into stuff that they're not supposed to, just because they're like, oh, this is cool, we can do this. I'm like, no, we can't. Stop. Go over here and do this instead.
I just had a client I spoke to before this call. He does a lot of implementation work at a very high level, and he was building out a custom Monday account for one of his clients. And he had a lot of automations through Make. And for those who are listening, Make is just another version of Zapier. They had just started implementing all of these automations. So something happens in Monday, it triggers something in Make, and then Make goes and tells another software tool what to do. Right? You understand the flow.
Yep.
So they get this thing, they start building the automations in Make, and the person that they're building the Monday account for goes in and starts changing labels and custom tags and everything. So he's like, we got to go back in there and fix this mess up. And he goes, I'm actually not mad. He goes, this is something that had to happen to our internal processes to break them. And now we've got to go and redocument how we do things.
Yep.
Like, yeah, it's just the way it is sometimes.
Well, and the breaking things is how you learn. And this is something we tell clients all the time, is just go break it. Yeah. If you have this idea, get it to the minimum viable program and launch it and go do it and test it and let it break. We did that all the time, because I'd rather break things early and then be able to say, oh, yeah, that is a big mistake, we have to do it this way, as opposed to could do a complete rollout, which is usually labor and money intensive, and then have to go back and rebuild it all from scratch because we didn't take in some variable. So, and it's, especially in sales, that's how you learn. Go make cold calls, go do cold reach outs, go meet with people and not get the sale and figure out why you didn't get the sale. That's how we learn. And it's a better learning process than going out and just hitting the easy button and having it work.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Let's pivot here, man. Tell me about the summits you guys are putting on.
Oh, so we got 2 of them going on right now. Every September, we do a big summit called the Badass Business Summit. It's in Dallas, Fort Worth. We bring in about 150 people from around the country. There's usually 15 or so speakers. It's a 3-day event. It's all about how you grow and scale your business. And it's awesome. We do a live podcast recording there. And it's literally, when we created it, we wanted to change how people experience conferences. Because normally you go to a conference and you take a ton of notes and you're like, oh my God, this is awesome, it's going to change my business. And then you get home and you do none of it. And the notebook just gets buried on your desk and you're like, oh yeah, I did that thing. I was going to do some stuff. Now what was it? And you don't remember any of it. And you're just screwed. So you wasted like money and time and just slowed your business down. So ours, when we created the Badass Business Summit, we built it around not having the presentations where people just get on stage and talk at you, but actually having them as workshops where you are actively working on your business. And we've built into the schedule different mastermind sessions where we put you at tables and we walk you through a mastermind process where you actually have to work on stuff for an hour, and you're actually getting feedback from the people at your table and talking about your business and figuring out what your next steps and getting to the point of, hey, I have some stuff roughed out. Now I just need to do some little tweaks at the end and I can implement it. So, even after our first year, we had people saying, oh my God, this is the best business conference I've been to. I'm like, really? We were in this little dinky hotel and there was, no fun lights. It was nothing. They're like, oh no, I got so much stuff done in my business. It's awesome. So now it's a yearly thing and we have a blast doing it. Last year, we did a contest for our members. So with Success Champion Networking, we have networking groups all over the country. And we did a contest for our areas that had multiple groups and said, hey, whichever of you has the most members and visitors attend the summit this year, we'll come do an event in your city. So Cincinnati, the Ohio group won. They beat out Dallas Fort Worth. And so now in May, we're going to go do a mini badass business summit. We're going to call it Champion Summit. We're going to be there for a day. We're going to do a live podcast, and then a bunch of local entrepreneurs are going to get up on stage and teach. And they're going to, our goal is to have, 50 to 100 people in the room. It's all business owners that want to learn how to grow their business and want to scale faster. So it's fun. We're kind of getting to the point now where we're starting to travel for Success Champions. It's kind of fun.
I like it. It. Yeah. I think that's, it's one of the differentiators that I'm saying we here, because I'm doing something similar with my events. As a spectator, as an event attendee, as someone who was planning and running events, I saw that the marketplace was kind of getting burned out and tired with let's get 10 influencers, blue check mark people on stage who are going to bark at you for an hour. We're going to collect your money and we're going to kick you the fuck out. And then you're going to go home with that endorphin rush and you're going to be like, wow, this is great. And then you get home and do absolutely nothing.
Yep.
Yeah. So very similar to the methodology that I've been through. But it seems that you guys are focused more so on the workshop side, even more so than what I am. So we do some workshop stuff in my events, but it's not, hey, you get an hour dedicated to go build some shit.
Yeah, our workshops, when we tell presenters when they get selected, we're like, you need to come in with tactical things that people can work on during your presentation and leave at a 60 to 70% state of being ready to implement.
Yeah.
And then the mastermind we throw in, it's partially a sales move, but it's also really important for the attendees because it does two things. One, we put it in the middle, so it gives them a mental break from listening to people talk. So we will walk them through. Now they get to process information and think about how they want to implement things and get feedback from other people who probably heard the exact same things they did, but heard it in a different way. So it allows them to internalize and remember what they heard better. But then it allows us to promote at the later in the event. We talk about our Champions Table Mastermind group, where they've just now been through a version of it, and they can say, oh wow, this actually would be really beneficial. So it serves two purposes for us. I'm giving away the secret sauce, so all of your listeners who come next year, don't feel bad, we're going to sell to you, but but it's really important for us because we've all been to those summits or those conferences where you're at the end of the day, you're just wiped and you can't focus and you don't remember what you just heard. And I don't know what this person's even saying to me right now. I'm so tired. My brain's just mush. That giving them that chance to talk about stuff was really key. And those are the parts when we do the surveys after, they're the ones that people actually like the most. They're like, oh my God, the mastermind thing was amazing. It's allowed me to think about this and do that. And I got to have this really cool conversation with this person that I hadn't even met up until that point. Because we make a move. You don't get to sit at the same table every session. You got to move around the room. So it's been really key. And as we keep doing this, we keep expanding and doing more of that. This year, we're actually going to have less presenters and more opportunities for people to work on stuff because it's really key. We'd rather everyone leave with like one or two badass things they're going to implement, as opposed to having learned 10 really cool things that they want to do and not getting any of them done.
Yeah, it makes sense. I love it, man. I love it. Dude, this is awesome. You guys put some cool stuff together. I love the fact that I've got another integrator here talking integrator stuff with me. Makes me feel like I'm at home. Where can people find out more about you and Donnie, the events, the summits, and all that kind of stuff, and possibly work with you?
Yeah, the easiest way is just to find me on LinkedIn. Search for Kevin Snow. I'm the guy standing in front of a badass business banner holding a sword. So I'm easy to find. But that's the easiest way. Connect with me there. We have posts about growth mode, all the summits, all the Success Champion networking events, all the things happen there. And then you'll get other options to connect with us through some text messaging things we have going and email stuff as well that get you some really cool tools that you can use for your business.
Love it, man. Hey, I appreciate you popping in here today, spending some time with me, diving into you, what makes you tick, a little bit about the military, and also, what you and Donnie are doing here with the summits. It's really cool.
No, this is a really awesome conversation. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm excited I got to do this.
Yeah, man. It's a reciprocation, and I have no problem doing it.
Thank you for tuning in to the Step It Up Entrepreneur Podcast. Make sure you head over to stepitupentrepreneur.com and make sure you subscribe so you never miss an episode of the Step It Up Entrepreneur Podcast.